and individual workspaces is still part of this process. We're going to have a little bit of fun in here today. Look at this. We have another distinguished guest that has joined us here.
Hello, Freddie.
Aaron?
How you doing?
All righty. So we have Aaron. He is our craft bottling manager, and he's responsible for making sure that the integrity of our products, especially our single bar bourbons, the integrity is never breached. So you want to talk a little bit about what's going on in here, Aaron, as we do this?
If you want to come this way, we'll get a full view here of the line. So we got about 10, 11 people out here on this line. We got a second line over there, both running Blanton products right now. So we got a full team. They each have individual jobs that they're responsible for. About 10, 11 pieces to this whole bottle that goes part of. So each team member is a part. They put on the wax, they put on the cork, they fill the bottle, they put on the labels, and it slowly works their way down the line until we have a full case. And we put that on here and then palletize it. So they're working off here as fast as they can, but also sticking to quality as well.
Yeah, and one of the questions we see on social media for both of you is what makes the craft bottling process different than, say, a small batch?
A couple of things about that. One of the things that makes Blanton's unique and craft bottling unique so craft means that I'm doing something above and beyond the norm to make that bottle of bourbon. So for Blanton's, it's the stoppers. There are 8 of them. And as you can see, all 8 stoppers are in a different position. The horses are in a different position. The jockeys are in a different position. And if you look closely, there is a letter on the rear hoof of each horse. You put them all together, it spells the name of the bourbon, Blanton's, but it represents the key positions in a horse race. Blanton's was the first single bar bourbon to ever be sold commercially in the world, and it started here in 1984 with Elmer T. Lee. So let's take a look at something. This is kind of cool because you can also see the red line. That's something else that's special about your craft barrels. Each barrel is processed by itself, and that red line shows you the saturation point of the whiskey into the wood. So all that color and flavor that you associate with your bourbon, 50% of that flavor is coming from this area between these 2 points. The color comes from the char, and the other half of the flavor is the recipe. So let's take this to the next level. Let's ease over this way a little bit and look at something special. When you ask about the difference between a craft bourbon and a small batch bourbon and a traditional bourbon, this gives you an idea of what's going on. Craft bourbons and single bar bourbons are usually processed 1 barrel at a time. So they're very labor intensive. So in this bottling hall, on any given day, we may be hand bottling anything in that display case. As we go back this way, let's look at how it all starts here, Tim. About ready? Hook it up. So we're going to roll that barrel in.
This is loud.
We're going to drill that bung up out of the barrel. They're going to roll that barrel over.
Right now he's taking a small sample of bourbon so that we can test for proof.
Exactly.
So they're dumping the full barrel right now. So all those processed gallons going out in the trough. And then that's going to lead down into a chiller. So you can see all that beautiful liquid pouring out of the barrel there. And so then he's going to take that sample and he's going to test for proof. So that's going to be obviously barrel proof here, and then we're going to go down to a eventually down to 93 proof for this, for Bland's here. You can see he's got all his equipment right now. He's going to pull that liquid in, give him proof, and then he's going to know how much water he needs to add to that barrel.
Also from here, it'll give him a chance to see how much work he has to do to clean it up, maybe the specs.
Yes.
So the term for it is called turbidity, but that determines how many of those solids get to stay in that product. So you'd asked earlier about what is craft bourbon all about. Craft means that you have a product that the parameters on it, the specs are very refined. You have very little deviation. And so the objective of the processor is to make sure that they meet those each time, even though the taste profile from one barrel to the next might be a little bit different.
Oh yeah, you can definitely taste the difference in that. And you were talking about small batch earlier. The team here, you got 2 dedicated individuals that are making sure every single barrel gets to that exact quality that we're looking for. Small batch, you're going to have several barrels all put together. Each one of these is touched individually by my team here. And they do a very good job, I would say.
Oh yeah. So obviously by the demand, they must be doing something right.
Oh yeah.
If you look around over here, so after that barrel gets processed, goes to a holding tank. The holding tank is where these barrels will reside, but it ensures that the folks on the line never have to wait for the processor for another barrel. So there's always enough barrels waiting that they can continue to bottle on a regular basis.
Yeah, unique for craft, you can see there too, every bottle is filled and then the cork is put on by hand. We don't have machines there that are loading those corks in. So every individual bottle is being corked, being stamped shut, pull ring off, and then we wax every single bottle individually.
Wait a minute, Aaron. Wait a minute. Hold on here. The stoppers are different. So, is there more than one stopper?
Yes. As you saw earlier, we have.
Is there one letter that's more predominant than the rest?
Well, no, actually. When you work with the vendors, you want to make sure we got an even distribution. You know, I think there's always a theory out there which bottle you might find, but you will find 2 different ends, but each one of those ends has 2 different horse positions. So while you think you might see more ends, you're really having 2 different ends.
Yeah, but I like the D. I think the D tastes the best. Yeah, I think the D tastes the best.
I'm more for partial for A. A for Aaron.
A for Aaron. I like that.
Yes,
so the deal is that in doing this, I guess if we fell in love with the D and the S, we'd be making another thing, wouldn't we? We'd be making a lot of that. But anyway,
not here.
But now you can see craft bottling is just that. It's labor intensive. The deal is you have to think about this. Depending upon where the barrel's set in the warehouse, the evaporation rate may be a little different. The density of the grain may be different on the wood. Mm-hmm. So you may get one barrel that produces a little bit more than the next.
Yes.
So that's the advantage of craft bottling is you have to vary your labels.
Yes.
And
yes.
Okay, so that's a good heads up.
So we have a full team. As you can see here with these labels, we have a full team dedicated to handwriting every single barrel that we have. And so they write a specific amount here. Bottle each number, barrel number, where it comes from on which rick. So we have a full team there dedicated just writing those barrels.
My goodness gracious. So it looks like they're pretty busy in here.
Oh yes, they're flying through this. If you see some beads of sweat, you won't be surprised.
Well, here's a cool one for you. How come some of them are in boxes and some of them are just in that webbing? What's that all about?
Well, the boxes are more for a gift presentation. It's nice to sit on a shelf that way. It keeps the integrity of the box, and actually inside that box too, we'll have a bag, individual bag itself. So you'll see those used even after purchase and after consumption of that bottle. People like to collect corks and whatnot inside of that. Now the webbing, we'll get a closer look here. The webbing, if you want to get a close shot of that, you're going to see it actually gives a nice protection here as we put these bottles up on the shelves. We're concerned about how you got the handwritten in there. We're concerned about this is all paper label, so it's easy to scratch. It can be easily torn. So we use this netting here to protect that. Keep you so when it comes to you and you're purchasing at the cash register, you got a nice quality bottle.
Right. So another cool one that you're asking about the craft bottling, a bottle of Blanton's is the cork is positioned the same on every bottle. The horse's tail lines up with the seam in the bottle. And what you'll also notice is where the pull tab is, the pull tab fits the horse's tail. And when you open up a bottle of Blanton's, ergonomically, everything is in place that the bottle is towards you. You grab this and turn it around and you see all the information about the bottle, about the bourbon in the barrel. It's facing you as you open up your bottle. It's pretty cool. So it's really a unique process, but a small batch bourbon, like our E.H. Taylor and some of those, the same level of intensity and integrity is associated with those also. So to be a taster, a lot of people ask about these craft bottlings and what does it take to be a taster at Buffalo Trace. Over 6 months of training goes into each individual taster, and then they have to actually taste and approve so many barrels or so many batches per month in order to maintain their integrity. Otherwise, they have to go back through a refresher process. So hopefully you've had a good time learning a little bit more about what we do at Buffalo Trace. So you get a chance to come out here and visit. Look forward to seeing you. Like I say, we are open for business. And if you don't have time for a tour, swing by and do a taste. But make your reservation in advance, because otherwise we have to stop you at the door.
That's great, guys. Thank you so much. And we got a few questions that we want to get to. Aaron, one of the questions I have from, looks like Ralph Sandlin is, in peak season, does the Blanton's bottling line run 24/7 due to what appears a slower process?
So we don't run 24/7. We're running 2 shifts, so that's about 16 hours, sometimes a little more, 5 days a week. When we get into those peak seasons, we're talking about holidays, especially in the winter. We might go into a Saturday, try to keep up. So we got tours that come in on Saturday. You can also see production then coming in too on Saturdays. But we got a high demand for Blantons, and so when it calls for it, we're in here bottling.
Great, that's great. Everybody wants more Blantons, that's for sure.
They do. I do.
Yeah, we all do. We have another question I think is really relevant to this. It says from Bourbon and Rye on Instagram, says, thanks you all so much for making this bourbon legend available to us all for this. Freddie, what makes the Blanton's bottling process different than other single barrel bottlings like E.H. Taylor? Is there anything different about the single barrel bottling?
The intensity of a single barrel bourbon is the same for E.H. Taylor. For all of our craft products, they go through the same process of approval of the barrels. It's just that a small batch means that we're marrying a small number of barrels together. So most people don't understand single barrel is 1 barrel, but there is no set number for small batch. It is based on a taste profile that you're trying to do with a select number of barrels. So it's just 2 or more barrels married together. But again, each barrel has to be approved for that taste profile in making that small batch bourbon.
That makes a lot of sense. One thing is it sounds like on the tours now that the tours aren't going to be coming through the bottling hall at this time during the COVID. So for people who can't come in here, what are some of the smells, what are some of the senses that they're missing out on the video and maybe they can't come into during a tour? What are they missing out on?
It's really amazing. So you can come through here, and remember we have a lot of single barrel and craft bourbons that we do at Buffalo Trace. So the beauty is coming in here on any given day, and depending upon what they're bottling that day, you get all these wonderful aromas. You might get the sweet caramel toffee notes of an Eagle Rare. You might get some of the more floral fragrances of a wheated bourbon. They're all coming through here, so it makes you want to come to work. Yeah. So on any given day, it's just like opening up a bag of like Fruit Loops you never know the flavor you're going to get until you come in that day.
And it hits you right when you open the door. You know, that smell of bourbon enters your nostrils, and you're ready to smile.
And I think I got a whiff of that when I pulled in the parking lot too. So you do get a ton of that smell outside, and
Yes,
again,
sir.
maybe talk about how people can register for a tour. Is it just online? Go to the website.
Yes. So one of the cool things that this new process has done is it requires a reservation in advance. So all you have to do is go to buffalotrace.com, click on tours, and it'll bring up a prompt and it'll tell you everything that you need to do. It'll walk you through that. It gives you a selection of different types of tours that you can take here. Right now we're running a traditional trace tour, but the numbers are no greater than 8. So you can have no more than 8 on a tour. So we have a trace tour, we have an expansion tour, and we have an E.H. Taylor tour. And each one takes you to a different part of the distillery on those tours. Look it up. And I was trying to think if we were cranked up to do the bourbon barrel tour yet, and I believe we're doing the bourbon barrel tour also, which takes you back by where we dump larger quantities of bourbon, like a Buffalo Trace, for example.
Great. So that's great. And you know, when I was walking around today, there's already a lot of people here, so I would say book in advance.
Oh yeah. So we're booked. When they first brought the system online, believe it or not, we had over 340 requests just in the first half hour.
Oh wow, yeah. Well, thanks guys. I know we're running out of time here, and I know you're both very busy, so wanted to thank you both. And if there's any closing statements from you both, I'm sure the folks would like to hear from you.
Yeah. Anything you'd like to say, Aaron?
Well, we're happy to be here. We're happy to keep making bourbon. You know, we never stopped, and we're just, you know, proud of the products that we put a shot through the store. So thank you for consuming. Thank you for being faithful to us.
Cool. So, and everybody says, well, you're not making enough. Well, just remember, those wonderful bourbons that you're enjoying from Buffalo Trace right now, those are some of the barrels that Elmer and my dad made several years ago. So even though we're cranked up and running right now, all these bottles of bourbon are some of the last products that they produced at Buffalo Trace. And all the new whiskey that we're making, you're going to have to wait around a year or two for those to come out. So hopefully we're going to meet the demand. But Aaron and the production team, they've already doubled their capacity. So we're cranking out more. But as long as you keep consuming it and the demand goes up, we're going to always be chasing the dog.
There you go. Well, thanks guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.